Scott Air, where I'm from, right up the road outside of Montpelier, like 45 minutes from here. I'm going to start with the piece I wrote on my first day at the Studio Center. Just as an aside, my sister bought the house we grew up in from my parents. Several times a year I drive all night to Michigan to visit my home place. This is called Home. The grounds of the home place are echoing with bird call. The deep black swamp waters below riffle in the breeze. Here is the red-winged blackbird calling from his cattail perch. Tilt an ear, hear the ghosts whisper. My uncle, long dead now, of an awful wasting cancer at 38, the year we came back from Germany, he used to come from Detroit with his shotgun, and he had a pistol, a Luger, or was it a Ruger, to hunt here in this country. I remember he would take me and his two sons along. Looking back now, he must not have known what he was doing. He was quite a drinker, also, I would learn later. I only remember dead blue jays and limp, bloodied sparrows from our pheasant hunts. But he let us boys shoot the guns. It was thrilling and terrifying as kindergartners and first graders. My family was planning to move to Germany that coming summer. My parents were all excited about it, even my big sister too. But I just knew I was going to screw it up for everyone because I'd heard through the grapevine how you could flunk first grade. There's a pair of white swans nesting in the swamp here this spring. They paddle around all lovey-dovey. They actually twine their necks about each other at times. I wonder if they mate for life. There is a third swan also. He remains aloof at a distance, pretending it doesn't bother him to be the odd man out. Here is a great blue heron taking wing like some unwieldy pterodactyl, all gawky and leggy, and the sound of a car rolling down the dirt road where I grew up. I remember that spring when I was still 6. I just knew I was going to flunk first grade, and then my family would not be able to go to Germany, and it would be all my fault. I'm a little wasted now. I'm in a strange space right now from driving all night, 850 miles to get back home. I feel like I might keel over. I better go inside and get a glass of water. There is something so holy in this house, in this place. It calls to me. I remember there was a rattlesnake in this basement once. We chopped its head off with a garden hoe. Holy Christ. Its headless body still twitched and writhed. My great-uncles would come up from the city, big men with loud voices and calloused hands. They'd drink 100 beers. Uncle Roy would always give me a big slug off his when the ladies weren't looking. I always loved the taste of beer. They'd mix up yards of cement and build a stone chimney to the sky with wheelbarrows and ladders and shovels and hammers. I remember there came a time, way back then, when I could not take a shit. I just could not do it. This went on for days. There was something in the way. I just knew it was simply impossible. That was when we all lived on the little first floor, before the men built the addition. The bathroom was next to the kitchen, next to the dining room, next to the bedroom. One time I was on the patio practicing casting my fishing line in the rain. I threw it over the bare power line that came into the house. I started getting electrocuted. It was shaking me, but I couldn't let go. It was juicing me bad, but I was stuck to the fish pole. My dad had to kick me off it. I went flying. They led me back in the house. I had to go lay down. Holy Christ. Anyway, I remember how I carefully hatched a plan. I was determined not to screw everything up for my family. I knew how excited they were about moving to Germany, and my flunking first grade was sure to put the kibosh on that for everybody. So I decided to. The next time, my uncle came out with his shotgun and pistol, and we went hunting. When it came my turn to shoot the Luger, or maybe it was the Ruger, I would put the gun to my head and pull the trigger. I would simply kill myself in order not to disappoint my parents. So that was the plan anyway. Not much has really changed around here. The air is still full of bird song. You still can't see another house from the patio. There's not much traffic at all still. 50 years have gone by in the world, but nothing has changed at my home. But now I don't want to keep you waiting with bated breath. Eventually I took a shit, and then it was no longer a problem. I eventually mastered it. And oh yeah, the next time my uncle came with his guns and we went hunting, I remember when it came my turn with the pistol, all I could think was, what is the matter with me? Now I'm really screwing everything up, because the last thing in the world I wanted to do then was blow my brains out. So I did not commit suicide then when I was 6, in case you were still wondering. And my mother now claims I got all A's in 1st grade. She has no idea how I tortured myself. But it is not her fault, really. She was just insensitive, I guess. So then we spent 5 years in Germany. Lots of other stuff happened, and then we came home again. I remember here in this basement here, right here, there used to be a Murphy bed that folded up against this wall. I remember after we came home from Germany and their dad died of cancer, my cousins came from the city to stay with us for a couple weeks that first summer. We were going into 6th and 7th grade that year. All 3 of us boys slept together in that Murphy bed, and every morning we got up and went fishing. I led them a couple miles through the state land to a deserted pond there in overgrown fields. I taught them how to set the hook when they felt a bite. You give a good yank to set the barb in the fish's mouth so they can't spit it out. My older cousin Greg, I'll call him Greg, would yank so hard when he felt a nibble, the little panfish would come tearing out of the water and then go flying off into the weeds 50 feet behind him. We laughed until we cried. I still laugh when I think of it. Then I smile and grow wistful, and then I want to tell you another story. Greg was a funny man. I loved to laugh with him. I remember the morning the 3 of us got up and went fishing, and we were determined to catch 100 fish in a day. Well, by God, we did. We came home with our stringers taut and bursting with panfish, and then my mother made us clean every one. Greg was a drinking man. I am a drinking man. He was a bookie that got behind. There was a bad run of luck. Even 2 bottles of red wine a night couldn't fix. I was always lucky until one night I came home and my wife told me Greg had blown his brains out in his bedroom in California. I remember I shook my head, and then something came unloose inside me. I staggered to the wall to hold myself up, and a feral wail came out of me in a single unending breath, rattling the windows. I saw the lamp's reflection rattling in the pane. I thought it would never stop. It was all the pain you and me and all of us will ever feel in a single unending word, until I was out of breath. But just because there is so much tragedy doesn't mean we shouldn't laugh whenever we can. Sometimes I just have to shake my head. Sometimes I just have to laugh. I laugh because the dead ones wish they could. I laugh for them. I tell myself they would want it that way, because we always were really alike. The last thing in the world we wanted to do was blow our brains out. There's a lot of irony in that line that everyone has missed that's read it so far. That poem's kind of dark. I'd like to shift gears. This one's about the Holocaust. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if you people do, but sometimes in the morning I wake up with like a word or a sentence or a phrase, and I drag it up from the dream world, and then I think, oh, what is the poem that goes with that? And on May 6th, I woke up with the phrase, "Perfection walks a crooked path." And I tried to figure out, let's see, my background is in physics, so I thought, well, maybe this is going to be a poem about the end of determinism. And then I thought of this weird book I found one time called The Physics of Consciousness, and this guy, he would be writing this really dense exposition with like really higher math and stuff, and then all of a sudden, he'd start talking about how his baby left him. And so some of that got into this poem. This poem sort of had its way with me, and I'm not really sure what it's about. But I've never read it before. No one has ever seen this poem before. I'm going to give it a try. It goes like this. Perfection walks a crooked path amongst the tombstones. Here lie rotting Gauss, Kepler, and Newton, and though the planets still spin in their appointed courses, now all their pretty dreams are torn. Determinism is now dead as a turd. Gaussian elimination of multiple variables to perfect echelon form will never ever again revive it. Real life is always a surprise. The greatest bit of order we can glean is just dogs baying at the moon. Nothing the least bit worthwhile can ever be perfectly predicted. The clock ticks the appointed hour, or so it seems, but things don't unfold as they should, because in fact, everything exists at once. The past, future, and present are but park benches where we pause to think. The second law of thermodynamics is a lie. Nothing but our awareness tends to disorder. In fact, there is nothing but chaos. The birth of mind heralds the end of order, since mind is blind to the perfection of disorder. She should never have left. There was no sense in it, and now he is a stinking, rotting corpse with a skull full of maggots. And order is nothing but a cheap powdered slut, and reason the last refuge of cowards. Heisenberg's uncertainty remains essentially misunderstood, and Niels Bohr's got us tied up in knots, thinking the world doesn't exist until we perceive it. It is all just a batting of lips and eyelashes, and I am no longer susceptible to that. And since their sweet child was taken with every breath, he curses God and despises his inability to punish any further. I am become as the elderly, mercury-addled, anti-hylozoist Newton, dabbling in biblical hermeneutics. I am the pitiful, aging, wild-haired Einstein amongst the snickering, quantum-maniacal young Turks, wagging a scolding finger and clamoring that God does not play dice. Well, God is a grizzled bum, sleeping in doorways, tugging shut his stained flasher's coat, shuffling through blind alleys past reeking dumpsters with his fly unzipped, drunk on Tokay. He plays craps on the sidewalk amongst the crumbling tenements beside the chopped hopscotch boxes of girls still believing the teddy bear truths. His heart is broken from the bleating of sheep led to the showers. He cannot forget their plaintive prayers in their hour of need and his utter helplessness against the human engineers of industrial crematoriums. The rancid smoke belches from the stacks. He wrings his hands at the awful, unending pleadings of a billion lost souls tortured unto eternity. Newton's dreams are shipwrecked upon the inundated shores. Order frays and becomes unraveled. All that is left is an impotent mysticism, and the only lesson in this meandering, listing existence is utter, vacant mystery. Thank you.